Welcome to the deep dive. Digging into today's topic is going to be, well, it's going to be fucking hard, to quote Jenny. But we got to talk about the raw, uncut reality of what's happening right now.
Yeah, we really do. Because the truth is, the whole financial landscape is completely shifting under our feet.
Exactly. For you listening, imagine taking the $50,000 you meticulously saved for a house down payment, and instead of putting it into a safe, boring index fund, you take every last cent and put it on a digital token named after a dog wearing a hat.
Right, which sounds crazy.
It sounds like pure insanity to our parents, or really anyone raised on traditional financial advice. But today we're looking at a stack of data that suggests it might actually be the most rational financial decision you could make.
It completely flips the conventional wisdom on its head, doesn't it? I mean, the traditional blueprint for the American dream was always work hard, save 10% of your paycheck, buy a house with a white picket fence, and then retire.
Yeah.
It operated almost like a law of physics for decades. You put in the time, you got the reward.
But that blueprint feels like it's just been set on fire. So for our mission today, we've got a massive stack of sources to unpack for you. We're talking behavioral economics studies from Carnegie Mellon, regulatory reports from the Ontario Securities Commission, and the UK Financial Conduct Authority.
Some really heavy sociology journals, too.
Exactly, and some deep financial market analysis. Our goal is to explore why an entire generation is embracing what's called financial nihilism as a completely logical life choice.
Right.
We're going to look at how trading apps exploit this exact mindset using casino psychology, the bizarre online culture that actually celebrates financial ruin, and ultimately what this lottery ticket economy means for the future of our global financial stability.
So, to really understand the sheer scale of this shift, I think we have to start by defining financial nihilism.
Yeah, let's break that down.
The term was popularized by commentators like Dimitri Kofinas and Travis Kling. At its core, it's this profound structural belief that the economic system is rigged.
Rigged against the average person.
Right. It's a state of total disillusionment where traditional long-term goals like buying a home or retiring comfortably are viewed as mathematically unattainable.
And when you dive into the historical data we pulled for this, the math absolutely backs them up. The contrast is staggering. Look back at 1989, the baby boomer generation was buying houses at about 4.5 times their annual income.
Which is manageable.
Very manageable.
Yeah.
But today, for young workers, that ratio has ballooned to 7.5 times their income.
And the generational wealth gap statistics paint an even bleaker picture. I mean, in 1989, when the youngest boomers turned 25, their generation collectively held 20% of the total U.S. household wealth.
20%.
Yeah, and about a third of all real estate wealth. But fast forward to 2020, when the youngest millennials turned 25, their generation held just 5% of household wealth.
5%? Think about it like a board game. It feels like young people are sitting down to play a game of Monopoly, but the previous generations have already been playing for 3 hours.
Right, the board is full.
Exactly. All the properties are bought, there are hotels on Park Place and Boardwalk, and the new players are just expected to roll the dice, pay exorbitant rent, and somehow survive on the $200 they get for pass and go.
That is a perfect analogy. It's a structural disadvantage from day one. Wages have completely decoupled from the cost of living over the last few decades.
They really have.
If you're a renter making a median salary and you do the math on how much house prices appreciate every year versus how much you can physically save after paying for rent and groceries, you quickly realize the goalpost is moving faster than you can run.
Which leads directly to what sociologists are calling doom spending.
Yes.
Because if the big goals are mathematically impossible, you just abandon them entirely. You splurge on immediate consumption, like luxury dinner or an expensive vacation. But jumping from buying a nice dinner to throwing thousands of dollars into highly volatile internet coins, that's a massive leap. How do we get there?
Well, the bridge between those two behaviors is asymmetric risk. And there's this brilliant study from Carnegie Mellon University on low-income individuals and lottery tickets that explains the psychology perfectly.
Okay, let's get into that.
So state lotteries have terrible mathematical returns. The expected value is around 53 cents on the dollar, yet people who are struggling financially spend a disproportionate amount of their income on them.
Because it's a desperation play, right?
Exactly. The Carnegie Mellon researchers identified two specific psychological mechanisms here. The first is relative deprivation priming.
Relative deprivation.
Right. When individuals are prompted to feel that their income is low relative to their peers or society, their lottery ticket purchases spike. They view the lottery as the only immediate mechanism to correct their social and financial status.
But the second mechanism from this study is the one that really caught my eye. Equalization of opportunity.
Yes, that one is crucial. Think about the labor market, the housing market, or the credit system. They all inherently favor people who already have capital, connections, or assets. The system is tiered.
Oh, absolutely.
A lottery ticket, however, provides every single player with the exact same mathematical odds of success.
It's a totally level playing field.
Exactly. And mapping this onto today's retail trading landscape unlocks the whole mystery. To a young investor feeling locked out of traditional wealth, a 0 days to expiration options contract or a new meme coin is just a modern, digitized lottery ticket.
Wait, before we go further, you mentioned 0 days to expiration options or 0 DTEs. I hear
Okay.
that thrown around constantly in financial news right now. What actually makes that a lottery ticket mechanically? Like, how does it work?
So an option is simply a contract that gives you the right to buy or sell a stock at a certain price. A 0 DTE is an options contract that expires at the end of the current trading day. You're betting on a massive immediate price movement happening in a matter of hours. Because time is almost up, the contracts are incredibly cheap to buy, but the leverage is astronomical.
So it's essentially putting a chip on a single number at the roulette table.
Exactly. If the market moves your way, you can make thousands of percent in profit by 4 p.m. If it doesn't, your investment goes to literally zero.
So mechanically, it's an all-or-nothing bet. But I have to ask on behalf of the listener who might feel stuck in this exact mindset, is it actually rational to play a game with a negative expected value? I mean, mathematically, the house usually wins.
Mathematically, yes, it's a losing strategy. Psychologically and economically, however, we have to look at the concept of marginal utility.
Break that down for us.
Marginal utility is the added satisfaction or benefit you get from having one more unit of something. If you need $200,000 for a down payment, saving $50 a month in a traditional savings account has almost zero marginal utility.
Because it barely makes a dent.
Right. It doesn't change your material condition at all. But a tail event, a rare, extreme market payout of 50 to 1 on a speculative trade, has massive utility. It's life-changing.
So the advice for a young listener trapped in this cycle isn't just to give them some condescending lecture about skipping their morning coffee to save money.
Far from it. The solution requires recognizing that the current path feels like a systemic illusion. It highlights a massive failure of traditional institutions. Credit unions and community banks need to step in to rebuild confidence.
By doing what?
By offering realistic, tangible stepping stones to financial well-being that actually outpace inflation.
Because right now, the entities stepping into that void aren't credit unions. It's mobile trading apps. And this is where the dynamic turns really predatory.
It gets very dark.
Yeah. If I walk into a casino in Las Vegas, I know I'm gambling. I see the flashing lights. I hear the slot machines. But digital trading platforms are dressing up a slot machine in a slick minimalist interface and calling it democratized investing.
The industry term for this is digital engagement practices, or DEPs. And the regulatory reports we reviewed from the UK Financial Conduct Authority and the Ontario Securities Commission show these are intentionally engineered to exploit cognitive biases.
Like they're not just making it look nice.
No, they borrow their user experience design directly from mobile video games.
We're talking about confetti dropping on your screen when you execute a trade. Audio cues like ringing bells.
Yeah, and the Ontario Securities Commission found that simply sending push notifications to users targets their attention bias and increases overall trading volume by 11%.
11% just from a notification.
And it gets worse. When apps introduce gamified reward systems like points, leaderboards, or prize draws, simulated trading frequency jumped by 39%.
39%. That is a massive behavioral shift just from adding some fake points to a screen. But it's not just the bells and whistles, right? It's how incredibly easy they make it to trade. They eliminate all the friction.
Exactly. In traditional finance, friction serves a vital purpose. The multi-step process of ordering, reviewing, and confirming a trade forces a person to slow down and use what psychologists call System 2 thinking.
Which is what?
That's the deliberate, rational, analytical part of your brain. By offering zero-commission trading, fractional shares, and one-click buying, these apps bypass System 2 entirely. They encourage impulsive, emotional trading.
Let's talk about that zero commission aspect, because nothing is truly free in finance. How do these brokerages make money if they aren't charging a fee per trade?
They rely on a mechanism called payment for order flow, or PFOF.
Right.
When you place a trade on a free app, the brokerage doesn't send it directly to the stock exchange. They route your order to a massive market-making firm, and that firm pays the brokerage a tiny fee for the right to execute your trade.
Why do market makers want our trades so badly?
Market makers love retail trades because average people are considered uninformed flow. They are less likely to have market-moving information, which makes them highly profitable to trade against.
Okay, so think of it like a casino offering you free drinks. The drinks aren't a gift. They are a customer acquisition cost to keep you sitting at the slot machine for as long as possible.
That's exactly what it is.
The brokerage's revenue model relies on you trading excessively, not on you building long-term wealth.
Furthermore, they institutionalize herding behavior through features like copy trading. On certain platforms, you can automatically mirror the trades of whoever is at the top of the app's leaderboard.
But in a volatile market, short-term massive returns usually just means someone took a reckless, uncalculated risk and got incredibly lucky.
Right, they aren't a financial genius.
But suddenly, thousands of people are copying their trades. Which brings up a chicken or egg question. Are these apps creating the financial nihilism or just capitalizing on a desperation that's already there?
It's a toxic feedback loop. The structural nihilism creates the desperation for high, immediate returns. The apps then weaponize that desperation, remove the friction, and turn high-risk trading into a dopamine-fueled game.
Which sets the stage for the absolute epicenter of this culture. Reddit's Wall Street Bets. If you want to see the collision of financial nihilism, casino psychology, and internet humor, this is it.
Wall Street Bets is a fascinating sociological case study. The culture completely subverts traditional capitalist values. The most glaring example is the phenomenon of loss porn.
Let's explain this to the listener, because to anyone outside the culture, it sounds completely backwards. Loss porn is where users post screenshots of their decimated brokerage accounts.
Decimated.
We are talking about life savings completely wiped out on reckless options trades. And when they post these catastrophic losses, the community doesn't offer sympathy. They offer validation, digital upvotes, and status. How does anyone celebrate losing $50,000?
You have to understand the concept of meta-irony. Meta-irony is a communication style where statements are layered with so many conflicting levels of sarcasm and sincerity that it becomes impossible to tell what the person actually means.
If you've ever made a brutal joke about a terrible personal failure, just so you didn't have to break down and cry about it, you understand the psychology of Wall Street Bets. It's like laughing at a funeral.
That is a perfect way to describe it. By using this meta-ironic shield, they protect themselves from the severe emotional trauma of their material loss. They rebrand financial ruin into a massive collective joke.
Right.
In a system they already believe is fundamentally broken, losing everything becomes a weird badge of honor.
But it goes beyond just coping mechanisms. Our sources connect this behavior to an anarchist concept called poetic terrorism, coined by Hakim Bey. The idea is to use creative, shocking spectacle to disrupt entrenched power structures.
Yes.
And we saw this vividly with the GameStop saga.
Yeah.
The community engaged in what they call shakedown economics.
Shakedown economics is a direct satirical jab at Reagan's trickle-down economics. The mechanics of it are brilliant and brutal. They coordinate massive short squeezes.
Break down the mechanics of a short squeeze for us. How exactly do retail traders force a multi-billion-dollar hedge fund to its knees?
Okay, so a hedge fund borrows shares of a struggling company and sells them, betting the price will drop so they can buy them back cheaper later. That's a short sale.
Got it.
But if millions of retail traders coordinate and start buying the stock aggressively, the price spikes. Suddenly, the hedge fund is bleeding money.
Fast.
Very fast. To stop the bleeding, the fund is forced to buy back the shares at the new inflated price just to close their position. That forced buying drives the price even higher, creating a violent upward spiral.
They are violently shaking the tree to force a wealth transfer from the institutional elite to the retail traders. And the poetic terrorism aspect of it is just wild. Retail traders use their gains to buy a massive billboard in Times Square that just said GME, BRRR.
Oh, yeah.
They hired a plane to fly a banner over Robinhood's corporate headquarters with a highly explicit insult.
Pumping millions into a meme coin based on a dog wearing a hat isn't just speculation. It is a giant middle finger protest against the traditional financial elite who lecture them about carefully investing in mutual funds while the cost of housing doubles.
But wait, isn't this just a free market? If adults want to gamble their paychecks, why is it a systemic issue? What happens when millions of people essentially opt out of the traditional economy?
Well, the systemic risks are severe, and they operate on two timelines: immediate market plumbing and long-term socioeconomic fallout.
Let's start with the immediate.
Immediately, this retail behavior causes massive structural volatility. Think back to early 2021. The extreme volatility from meme stocks actually forced brokerages to raise billions of dollars in emergency capital overnight just to stave off bankruptcy and prevent a wider market contagion.
Because the sheer volume of trades was breaking the underlying mechanics of the market.
Yes, but there is also a hidden credit risk that is arguably much more terrifying. Traditional credit risk models at major banks are largely blind to this modern behavior.
I was actually shocked when I read this in the research. How are the banks blind to it?
Imagine a borrower who takes a cash advance on their credit card or uses revolving credit to fund a highly leveraged crypto options account. The bank's algorithm sees a drawdown in available credit.
Right, which happens all the time.
But those risk models are trained on decades of historical data, where credit card debt usually meant someone was paying for a medical emergency or struggling to buy groceries. The model literally cannot differentiate between someone experiencing standard economic stress and someone who is 100 times leveraged on Ethereum.
Oh, wow. So a major bank might look at its balance sheet and think it has a normal distribution of consumer debt, when in reality, it is sitting on a mountain of highly volatile crypto leverage.
Exactly. And that means during a broader market downturn, when those speculative assets crash, we could see a sudden, highly correlated wave of mass financial defaults that the risk models never predicted.
That is genuinely scary. And looking long-term, what happens to an entire generation funneling their discretionary income into negative expected value speculation instead of compound interest retirement accounts?
We will see an unprecedented demographic crisis. A massive cohort of the population will reach middle age with zero financial cushion. No assets, no property, no retirement savings.
That's completely exposed.
Yes. Many assume the great wealth transfer, the inheritance from the baby boomers, will eventually plug this hole. But due to increasing longevity and the astronomical costs of end-of-life healthcare, much of that boomer wealth will be consumed by the medical system before it can ever be inherited.
Which means an enormous, unmanageable burden will eventually fall onto state and federal social safety nets. The private trading losses of today become the public systemic crises of tomorrow. Are regulators doing anything to stop this?
Regulators are beginning to move, yes. The European Union and the UK are taking steps to ban payment for order flow entirely, which removes the financial incentive for brokers to push excessive retail trading.
That's huge.
It is. There are also proposals to add friction back into the system, like requiring third-party authenticator apps for highly volatile penny stock trades. That forces investors to slow down and re-engage that rational System 2 thinking. But those are just band-aids on the app design, right? I mean, banning a feature on an app doesn't fix a society where a starter home costs $800,000. If you don't fix housing affordability, wage stagnation, and the student debt crisis, people will continue to seek out the casino.
You're absolutely right. The structural incentives have to change. If the wealth-building pipeline isn't rebuilt to actually function for young workers, the nihilism will only deepen.
Let's take a breath and recap the journey we've been on today. We started by looking at the harsh mathematical reality of a broken wealth pipeline, how the massive decoupling of wages and housing costs birthed a generation of financial nihilists.
Yeah.
We explored how that blockage breeds a rational lottery ticket desperation, where taking wild asymmetric risks on zero DTE options actually makes psychological sense.
We then examined how digital trading platforms weaponize that psychology, using gamification, frictionless design, and payment for order flow to turn the stock market into a portable slot machine. We dove into the meta-ironic coping mechanisms of Wall Street bets, where financial ruin is rebranded as poetic terrorism through massive short squeezes.
Right.
And finally, we uncovered the terrifying systemic risks, from hidden credit defaults lurking in bank algorithms to a future where a generation crashes into middle age with zero safety net.
It represents a profound structural shift in how an entire demographic values labor, capital, and time.
So to you, the listener, we want to leave you with a final, lingering thought to mull over. If the current financial system truly functions like a casino where the house always wins, is the ultimate act of rebellion refusing to play the game entirely? Or is it trying to violently break the slot machine from the inside out? And more importantly, as you look at your own savings, the apps on your phone, and your own financial future, which game are you currently playing?
A vital question for all of us to consider.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take a hard look at the interfaces you interact with daily, question the friction or the deliberate lack of it, and we will catch you on the next one.